Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, here to break down the penultimate episode of Season 3 of Bates Motel. We are on crazy, so spoiler alerts before we dive into truly the mad thick of things, as I shall be bearing all in this review. And just so you guys know, I have a freaking ton of new content on my channel. Life has been insane of late, and I'm so sorry I haven't been able to get around to responding to comments, but I do have a new song/work in progress, Dance Royale, link in the description, my latest review of Game of Thrones. I have coming soon, if it's not already up, a podcast review of the first season of Daredevil 2, so there's just a ton of stuff going on. If you want to join me for that, you are more than free, but of course we all know what we are here to discuss, and I shan't keep you from that any further. So, how many ways can we boil down this insanity together as Norma and Norman are currently cruising down the carpool lane to who frickin' knows where? And good lord, am I ever impressed by the powerhouse performances we are getting out of Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore, none other. They are pretty much the king and queen of cable television right now. They are on top of the game, and I mean, just this whole crazy complex surrounding Norma Bates, walling her in as she tries to control and consume everything. It's scary and at once heartbreaking, those parts of us that feel for her, and then the parts of us that fear her are pretty much ready for this and have been waiting for the, as my old English teacher back in high school used to say, the fit to hit the shan. So, spoonerize the first and the last word and you catch my drift. But, so, in a nutshell, can we really compress that, all of this episode into just one tiny little seedling? We see Norma desperately trying to control everything around her by suppressing the truth, and in attempting to control everyone else around her, little does she realize that there is a form of her person that is controlling Norman in the bedroom. So, hey, at least she's she's succeeding on some front, you know? You gotta give her credit for that. But, I mean, this was just a heavy hitter in the world of Norma. She thinks that she can stroll right on up to Bob Paris and it's as simple as giving the guy what he wants, but of course it's become so much more than the flash drive and its contents. I mean, this entire scenario has placed Bob Paris in a position of compromise, and he realizes that it really is all about information, and Norma has hung on to this piece of information in the form of the flash drive for such a damned long time, and I'm afraid a little bit too long for her to have a happy life. He makes very clear to her that he is officially in control of the situation, and that her handing over the flash drive, which she no longer possesses anyway, is not going to do anything for her, and he is only going to continue to press further into this. And so what Norma thinks is going to be a move in the right direction and to protect her son without his permission ultimately backfires for her. I mean, every time Norma picks up a gun, every time she opens her mouth, there is a barrel that is at once facing her target and facing right back at herself. So we see that in a big way in this episode, with her going to even confront Alex Romero about the flash drive that he took and ended up returning to the DEA. He is trying to break free from the influence of Bob Paris as well, and unfortunately it kind of puts the two of them at odds, because Norma has done nothing but lie to this man who has done everything for her, and I am so freaking in love with their relationship. I mean, it's become one of the most fascinating parts of the show for me, and getting to see that almost kiss, I mean, just such a nuanced performance from both Nestor Carbonell, I believe his name is. It reminds me of some kind of Italian dish, and Vera Farmiga. But I mean, just the way that Alex approaches and endeavors to handle the one-woman hurricane that is Norma Bates is a sight to freaking behold. That much I can say. So when she busts into his house and promptly tells him, you're not gonna shoot me because when pigs fly, you know, that kind of thing. Just the audacity of that woman it is her beauty and her downfall all at once, and I love it. Can't get enough of my Norma. But yet again, far away, so close. Turn up the static on the radio between Romero and Norma, for as much as they are drawn to one another in this toxic and crazy relationship, it's still not quite yet to be, because Norma, she is in full-fledged psycho mommy mode, and there is nothing that is going to come between her and ascertaining the power that she desires. That power being safety and solace for herself and her son, who she thought she was going to be building a life with in this place, and yet is becoming more and more by the day imprisoned by what was supposed to be their second chance. And she gets to the point where she is even trying to take on the truth with which Norman threatens her down in the basement, when she decides she's gonna have a little bit of spring cleaning just in case the cops show up. Norman is just not gonna have that. I mean, I love the manipulative side of Norman that comes out to play in this episode, and it's certainly not the first time with him, but I love to see the way that, because with Norman, we can see him reacting violently as we have in the past in other scenarios, but with his mother, with Norma, he treads so much more cautiously, and the fangs that he wields, well, he sinks them in a far different way. And he decides once again to try to turn the tables on Norma and to assert that she is the one taking the trip to Crazyville, when in fact the two of them are going together. But yeah, that was a pretty crazy little moment. The whole, like, you know, what's keeping me from believing that you were the one who killed my father? And of course, Norma immediately goes to, you're just mad at me, like, we're gonna work this out, just throwing dead animals into the garbage bag. I mean, this is the life of Norma. Rather than seeking help from anyone in this place, any kind of partner, any kind of confidant, even in alienating the son whom she thinks she is so valiantly saving, she is pretty much carving up for herself a little one-woman island, essentially, and even goes so far as to later on begin to fill in the 25-foot deep hole dug for her by Bob Harris, filling it in herself with a shovel, middle of the night, screaming, "Screw you all, you sons of bitches." I gotta say, I've never faced my problems that way before. I kind of feel like I've been doing it wrong or something, you know? I need to go to the Norma Bates school of getting it done. I think that's what I need to do, or that needs to be an institution of learning, I think, because we could all glean a bit from the ways of Mama Bates. But yeah, it's desperate and tragic and intense, and as always, Vera is firing on every possible cylinder. We see her receding into herself, and just the way that tears well up and those giant placid blue eyes of hers, and then the next minute she is flailing and screaming. And I mean, I felt myself like gritting my jaw when she was just wailing on Romero, because that, I mean, it just got under my skin, and I felt that. It was just such a visceral response inside of me. The hatred that the two of them are trying to spew back and forth at one another, and really what it is that Norma hates is being backed into this corner and up against this wall of revealing everything about her son, because what that exposes about her is the fact that she alone cannot provide for him. And she believes that it is her duty, it is her life. And this is the boy who, you know, she is his alpha and omega, as he kind of tells her down in the basement, "You're the first thing that I think of in the morning and the last thing on my mind before I drift away." And it's so, in every other context, just so romantic. And who's to say that it's not in this one, except for the fact that she's shoving his birds in a bag. And his art, his things of beauty, and this for Norma, and at this point, is not so beautiful, because everything is bearing down on the two of them. And this is something that I tweeted out earlier, and I've kind of said in different ways in times before, but really the chord between their hearts, that iconic line from the very first season of the show, which I think was spoken when they were going to dump the dead body in the bayfront, if you guys recall that. But Norman was saying that there's a, I forget if it was Norman or Norma, they're all kind of blending together in my mind, but they were saying that there's a cord between their hearts, and that cord between their hearts is in fact becoming the noose around their necks, and they are just little bushel of Bateses on sale, buy one get one free. So hey. Or buy two, get one free, technically, because we got Norma, Norman, and Mother. And we did get to see the return of the mothership to the scene of the almost crime of hanky-panky going down between Norman and, of all the delightful creatures, Bradley Martin. And Mother puts it quite flawlessly in saying that Bradley Martin has been a pain in the ass, which I hadn't felt for a long time. I thought that I was healed from that particular ailment, but can't always get what you want, and you can't always stay away from what you don't want, and that is just the way of it, ain't it? I'm currently dealing with the crisis of the ever-returning, privileged, manipulative pieces of feminine scum, and I don't say that because they are women. I myself am a woman, but what is it with these female characters? Like, I don't understand. Why do they keep happening, and why do they haunt me? I just want to go live my happy, merry life. I mean, Barbara Keene is honestly part of the reason why I stopped reviewing Gotham week by week a couple of weeks ago, because I couldn't stand sitting there and just complaining about her, and she kept existing in front of my face, and now Bradley Martin is doing that again. And I wanted to give her a fair chance. I really did. I really tried. But I mean, it's so strange the way that she returns. So Norman is out running. Shabam, there she is. And apparently driving cross country in her crappy little car turned her brunette. Like, Norman's like, "Why are you looking like that?" And she's like, "My life has been hell." I mean, you can tell my life has been hell, but I'm getting my Norma blues on here at the blah 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 and consuming my own hair. But I guess that's just what happens, you know. Brown hair is a sign of stress and being an evil television character who should never show her face in my part of town again. But she does, and she's back, and she wants to come home, which she kind of finds out that the rest of the world has moved on without her. And guess what? The world keeps on turning. This is what Norma Bates is figuring out as she thinks that she can halt everything and put all the pieces of the furniture in the perfect little places and get that Norma Bates feng shui going on. But again, I think that Bradley Martin, too, needs to go to the Norma Bates school of getting it done. As in, get a life somewhere else. Try something, be somewhere, and just stop throwing yourself onto people and trying to capitalize on the fact that once upon a time this budding psychopath had a crush on you. It's just not gonna be like that first magical time. I mean, I'll never forget that weird and whimsical bedroom scene that they had in the first season with just the blue lights, and it was this enchanting fairyland of sexual teenage wonder, and it's just not gonna be that way anymore. And she thinks that she can take another crack at it after being a jerk in every possible fashion. And, well, Mother has a little something to say about that, doesn't she? Hanging out in the bleachers, you know, all but blowing her whistle on the two, which I was quite appreciative of. And Bradley's return simply, to me, constitutes another opportunity for Mother to emerge, and we see that the continued stresses of Norman's life are becoming more and more intertwined with the presence of Mother, which is at once scary and exciting. Exciting because we get to see this totally different Norma Bates who is not Norma Bates, and yet it's just, it's another performance that gets right on under my skin, and one of my favorite aspects of the show, getting to see how Norman deals with this confusion, and he's come to the point where he recognizes that something is wrong with him, and that there is another entity in his mind that is kind of coming out of the woodwork. But oh man, just the seduction that is at work here is simply to die for, and I really enjoy getting to watch that happen. Can this please be the last of Bradley? I mean, I know that on whatever road trip they're taking next, Norman explicitly states that Mother would like to have a talk with her, and no, he's not gonna be bringing her up on the phone. And even Caleb comes back to make clear to Norma that Norman does in fact believe himself at times to be her, or some iteration of her, and it's all coming crashing down on, or it's all come crashing down on Norma's head. And we're going to see her in the next episode finally facing this reality from which she has tried to run at a breakneck pace. The fact that Norman needs help that she cannot supply. She needs help too, but we saw how that's turned out in the past. Norma giving Tree Bates needs to let her son put down the axe and be her own person, but also try to do what she can for her boy, her son whom she loves. And yeah, there is much underway here, but another thing that was frustrating for me with the return of Bradley, of course, is the fact that it just kind of seemed like a convenient pairing to balance out with what's going on between Emma and Dylan. And honestly, with Emma and Dylan, I'm nervous about it, but at the same time, I totally support any and all measures that are going towards the well-being of Emma. I really like the girl, and the fact that Dylan is giving his all to help her recover from her sickness and get a new pair of lungs, like, hey, that's huge, and that's beautiful. In this show where so many people think that they're doing the right thing for someone else, when in fact they're just ripping the universe to shreds, finally to see this selfless act of kindness and love on, I say love, affection, whatever, concern on Dylan's part, it's a breath of fresh air. I feel like I'm laying on a Tahitian beach, just soaking up the sun, sipping a nice cocktail compared to all that's transpiring around them. So we have this one little nucleus of sunshiny happiness that is shared between the two of them and their, you know, whatever sexual tension is happening there. Really, the core of it is there are ways to do things that are good for others without totally destroying yourself, although we don't know what kind of backlash Dylan is going to be facing after he's essentially making off with Chick's money. And it really sucks that that kind of tenuous friendship that was unfolding out there in the woods with Caleb and Dylan and Chick has kind of gotten tossed out the window. I still don't know what I think about Caleb, but at least he's finally figuring out that this really isn't the home for him, and he tries to tell Dylan that he's going to be nearby, but at this point he's got to skip town. He made a big old fat half measure, and he's either got to escape that and cut his ties, or face the music and become the king of the woods. I mean, what's he gonna do? It looks like he is going to take off, but not before telling Norma that she could very well be in danger. And I think that is finally an effective use of this character who has been the pain in my ass that Bradley Martin was in seasons past, and now is becoming again. So there is always going to be that pain, apparently. You know, talk to your doctor if you've got a case of television-induced pain in the ass. That's one they don't try and tell you. They try and say, like, oh, watching too much TV will ruin your eyesight and give you headaches and migraines. But I have got a butt grain going on from silly things that I don't like. But by and large, this season has just been astronomical and has done an incredible job of keeping me on every possible edge. I feel like a very unqualified trapeze artist after all of these emotional threads that I am trying to tiptoe across to whatever end we are reaching next week. So thank you guys so much for watching my review. It has been mind-numbingly fun to dig into these shenanigans, and of course, if there's anything major glaring that I happen to miss in this particular review, I would love for you to address it in the comments below. And if I get the time, I would be more than happy to duke it out with you down there too. So there's lots of tension afoot, lots of grasping for straws and for control, and I think at long last, perhaps Norma is going to put her feet on the ground and find herself a single human being with another human being for whom she has all the love in the world, but who desperately, desperately needs something. Really, all he needs is her. But it just can't be that simple now, can it? So, with that being said, I shall leave you all, and will return, of course, before you know it.